already know. You've known for a while now that this thing you're carrying doesn't belong to you anymore. Maybe it's a person. Maybe it's a version of yourself you keep returning to. Maybe it's a conversation that ended months ago but still plays on a loop at 2 a.m. You know you should let it go. And yet, here you are, still holding it, still turning it over in your hands like there's something you missed, some angle you haven't examined yet, some explanation that will finally make it make sense. There isn't, and somewhere beneath all the thinking, you already know that too. So why can't you let it go? Not because you're weak, not because you haven't tried hard enough, not because you need better advice or a different perspective. The reason is older than that. When something or someone occupies a significant place in your life, your mind doesn't simply release it when the circumstances change. The nervous system doesn't distinguish between what is real and what is remembered. It keeps the door open. It keeps sending signals to a part of you that is still waiting, still hoping, still believing that if you just hold on a little longer, something will resolve. And so the holding on isn't a mistake. It was at some point the most sensible thing you could do. The mind learned to grip tightly because letting go, true letting go, felt too much like losing. But there is a cost to carrying what no longer belongs to you. You feel it in the way certain songs stop you in the middle of the day, in the way you check your phone or don't, in the weight behind your sternum that has no clean name. You are still spending energy on something that is no longer spending energy on you. In Vietnamese, there is a word, Buông. It is usually translated as let go, but the translation doesn't carry the full weight of the word. Buông is what happens when you open a hand that has been clenched, not because you've been convinced, not because the pain has passed, but because the grip itself has become the source of pain. In Vietnamese culture, this word appears in a particular phrase, buông bo, to lay something down and walk away from it, not to pretend it wasn't real, not to deny that it mattered, but to set it on the ground, acknowledge what it was, and leave it there. There is something in this word that Western ideas about letting go often miss. We tend to think of releasing something as an act of detachment, a kind of emotional distance you achieve by thinking about it differently, by reframing, by deciding. But buông is not a decision of the mind. It is a movement of the body, a physical unclenching, a softening of the muscles around the heart. You cannot think your way to buông. You can only arrive there slowly, through willingness, through sitting with the thing you've been carrying long enough to feel its actual weight. That is what we are going to do now. Find a position that allows your body to rest fully. If you are sitting, let your hands open in your lap, palms facing upward. This is not symbolic, it is practical. An open hand cannot grip. If you are lying down, Let your arms fall slightly away from your body so that no part of you is holding itself together. Close your eyes or let your gaze soften toward the floor. Take one breath that is slightly longer than usual. Not forced, just a little more room than you normally allow yourself. And again. Now, without forcing anything, let whatever you've been carrying come to the surface. You don't need to name it perfectly. You don't need to understand it. Just let it be present. Notice where it lives in your body. Is there something in your chest? A tightness, a fullness, a dull pressure that sits just behind the ribs? Is there something in your throat? Words that were never said, or words that were said and cannot be unsaid? Is there something in your stomach? A low hum of unresolved tension that you've learned to ignore during the day? You don't need to fix any of this. Right now, the only thing you are asked to do is to notice it, to sit with it, the way you might sit with someone who is not okay, not to fix them, not to tell them how to feel better, but just to be present. Be present with yourself in this way. Now I bring to mind what you are holding, the person, the memory, the version of yourself, the outcome you wanted and didn't get. Let it be here, and as you hold it in your awareness, ask yourself quietly, what has holding onto this protected me from? Not judgment, not analysis, just what has this grip been guarding? Perhaps it protected you from having to accept a loss. Perhaps it kept hope alive when everything else suggested otherwise. Perhaps it gave you something to return to when the present felt too uncertain. Whatever the answer is, it was not wrong. The holding on made sense. And now you are here, which means some part of you is ready to consider the possibility that you don't need that protection anymore. Bring your attention back to your hands. Feel the openness of your palms. In this moment, you are not being asked to stop caring. You are not being asked to pretend it didn't matter. You are not being asked to be okay with it. Buong is not indifference. Buong is the quiet, honest acknowledgement that you have been carrying something that you were never meant to carry forever. And with your next exhale, not to force it, not to perform it, but if there is the smallest willingness, let something loosen, just slightly. Everything at once, not the whole story, just the grip. Just the part of you that has been white-knuckling this thing in the belief that holding tighter would somehow change it. You can still feel it, you can still grieve it, you can still wish it had gone differently. And you can unclench. These two things are not opposites. Take a breath. What you've been carrying has weight, real weight. And the fact that you are still here, that you are sitting with it, rather than running from it, says something about you. Buông is not a single moment. It is something that happens over and over, in small increments, each time you choose presence over the grip. You have done that here tonight. Before you return to the rest of your evening, take one more breath and notice, is there anything, even the smallest thing, that feels slightly less held than when you arrived? That is where it begins, not in the grand release, in the small, quiet willingness to loosen, one exhale at a time. Buông is not always one motion. Sometimes the hand opens and closes again without you deciding to. That's not failure. That's just what happens next. You've been here before, not here exactly, but this feeling, this pull, you told yourself it was the last time. Maybe you even believed it. And then something small happened. A song, a smell, a quiet Tuesday evening with nothing to distract you, and you found yourself going back again. Not always physically, sometimes just in your mind, replaying a conversation, checking their profile, drafting a message you never send or sometimes do. And afterward, you feel something that's hard to name, not quite regret, not quite relief, something closer to, why did I do that again? If you've ever asked yourself that question, this reflection is for you. Here's what's important to understand first. Going back is not a character flaw. It is not proof that you are weak, or that you don't respect yourself, or that you haven't grown. Those are the stories we tell ourselves when we're ashamed of something we don't yet understand. The truth is more interesting and more forgiving than that. When something or someone has been a significant source of meaning in your life, your brain encodes them differently than ordinary memories. They become what psychologists call a reward cue, something your nervous system associates with relief, with feeling known, with the particular kind of comfort that only that specific thing provided. And here's what makes it complicated. The brain doesn't stop associating that person with comfort just because they also caused you pain. It holds both. At the same time, the warmth of what it once was and the ache of what it became. And when you're tired or lonely or uncertain, the brain reaches for what it knows, not what's good for you, what's familiar. But there's a question underneath the pattern that most people never ask. Not, why do I keep going back? But, what am I actually going back for? Because it's rarely the person exactly, or the situation as it actually was. What you're going back for is usually something the relationship once gave you, or something you believed it was about to give you. A feeling of being truly seen, a sense of belonging to something. The version of yourself that existed in that relationship. The one who felt chosen, or needed, or alive in a particular way. You're not going back to them. You're going back to a version of yourself. And that is worth sitting with, because it tells you something important. What you're looking for is real. The need is real. The longing is real. You just haven't found it in a place that can actually hold it yet. In Vietnamese, there is a word for this, Vấn Vương. It's difficult to translate precisely, which is part of why it matters. The closest English approximation might be lingering attachment, but that sounds clinical, almost cold. Vấn Vương is neither. Vấn Vương describes the way something stays with you after it should have released you, like smoke that remains in a room after the candle has gone out, like the impression a hand leaves on water after the hand has lifted. The water still remembers the shape of it. In Vietnamese poetry and music, Vấn Vương appears often in the context of love, but not the dramatic, urgent kind, the quiet kind, the kind that lives in the ordinary moments, the cup of tea someone used to make for you, the particular way they said your name. Vấn Vương doesn't ask you to hurry. It doesn't shame you for still feeling. It simply names what is true, that some things leave a mark, and the mark takes time to fade, and there is no shortcut for that time. So what do you do with Vấn Vương? Not how do you get rid of it, because trying to force it out usually makes it stronger. But how do you live with it honestly without letting it keep making decisions for you? The first thing is to stop calling it a weakness. What you're experiencing is the residue of something real. You loved something, or wanted something, or built something, and it mattered. The lingering is proof of that. The second thing is to get honest about what you're seeking when you go back. Not to judge it, just to see it clearly. Are you looking for closure that was never given? Are you testing whether the pain is still as sharp as you remember? Are you hoping something has changed? Are you looking for the version of yourself that existed then? Whatever the answer, it deserves your honest attention, not your shame. I want to offer you something to sit with, not a solution, but a question. Think of the last time you went back, or the last time you almost did, and ask yourself as gently as you can, what was I hoping to find there? Not what did you find, not whether it was wise, just what were you hoping for? Because that hope is telling you something about what you need, and what you need doesn't have to be found in that particular place. The need for connection, for being known, for feeling like yourself, those are not things that disappeared when that relationship ended. They're still here, in you, waiting to be met differently. Vấn Vương fades, not when you force it to, but when something else begins to take up space. Not a replacement, something new, a different kind of attention, a different kind of presence. That's not something I can tell you how to find, but I can tell you it's possible, and I can tell you that the going back, every time you've done it, was never just weakness. It was a part of you, still trying to get something it genuinely needs. That part of you deserves patience, not judgment, not another promise to do better, just patience. Sometimes you don't go back at all. They just stay at the edge of things, not arriving, not leaving. There's a word for that too. Something about them is still here, Not because you want it to be, not because you're holding on. You've tried to put it down, to think about something else, to fill the space with anything else. But there it is again, a name, a memory, a sentence they once said, showing up uninvited in the middle of something that had nothing to do with them. In Vietnamese, there's a word for this, Lảng Vảng, something that lingers nearby, not quite arriving, not quite leaving. A presence at the edge of a room, a shape you sense before you see it. You didn't call it here, and it isn't something you have to fight. We treat this like a failure of discipline, like if you were stronger or busier or more evolved, the thought simply wouldn't return. But the mind doesn't work by command. You cannot order a thought to leave the way you'd ask a guest to go home. The more you push against it, the more it seems to press back, like water finding the one crack in a wall you thought was sealed. This isn't weakness. It's how attention behaves when something once mattered enough. And Lảng Vảng doesn't ask permission. It doesn't knock. It's simply there at the periphery, the way certain songs are already playing in your head before you notice you're humming them. Think about the moments it shows up. Rarely when you're already thinking of them. It arrives sideways, in the pause between songs on a drive, in the second before you fall asleep, in a stranger's laugh that sounds nothing like theirs, and somehow still summons them anyway. You didn't invite it, and the instant it arrives, some part of you tenses, braces, as if this thought were a threat to manage rather than a visitor passing through. So you do what you've always done. You push it down, you distract yourself, you tell yourself it's been long enough, that you should be past this by now. But pushing a thought away rarely makes it smaller. It just teaches the thought to come back harder, later, when your guard is down. This is the part no one explains. The harder you try not to think of something, the more room it takes up in your mind. Suppression isn't the opposite of obsession. It's often the very engine of it. So the cycle continues. The thought arrives, you fight it. It leaves briefly, only to return, this time carrying the memory of having been fought. And slowly, you start to believe something is wrong with you for still thinking of them. That the thinking itself is the problem. There is an older approach to this than the one most of us were taught. It comes from a teaching called Nan Dien, recognition, not chasing a thought away, not holding on to it either, just naming that it is here. Jung loi keo hoak sua joy. Don't pull it closer, don't push it away, just recognize it. If it has come, know that it has come. If it has gone, know that it has gone. Like a gatekeeper who doesn't judge who passes through, only notices calmly who is arriving and who is leaving. This changes what happens next. The moment you stop treating the thought as an intruder, it stops needing to force its way back in. So the next time they come to mind, and they will, try something different. Instead of pushing the thought away or spiraling into it, simply say quietly to yourself, "This is Lảng Vảng. This is the part of me still circling something unfinished." That's the whole practice. Not analysis, not a story about why, just naming what is true in this moment. You are not required to resolve it today. You are only asked to notice it without fighting it. And little by little, what you stop fighting starts to lose its grip. Not because you forced it to leave, but because it no longer needs to prove that it's real. They may stay Lảng Vảng for a while longer. That's all right. You are not failing at moving on. You are only learning a new way to hold what hasn't finished healing. Tonight, if they come to mind again, you don't have to chase the thought away. You don't have to disappear into it either. Just notice, there you are again, and let that be enough. And sometimes, what lingers isn't a thought, it's a feeling that waited, patiently, quietly, until you were finally strong enough to feel it. Nobody told you this part. Nobody said that healing, the real kind, the slow kind, the kind that asks something of you, would sometimes feel like losing them all over again. Not worse than the first time, but different, quieter, more specific. Like you finally understand the exact shape of what's gone. If you're somewhere in that, if you thought you were getting better and then something shifted and the grief came back but changed, this reflection is for you. When you were deep inside it, in the thick of the ending, the loss, the confusion, there was a strange mercy to it, a kind of numbness, the body's way of giving you only what you could hold. You moved through those days the way people move through fog, not fully feeling, not fully seeing, just continuing. And you told yourself, when this lifts, I'll be okay. When the fog clears, I'll be okay. And then it did. The fog lifted, and underneath it, the full weight of everything you hadn't been able to feel yet. Here is something worth understanding. Grief doesn't always come at the moment of loss. Sometimes it waits. It waits until you're stable enough to hold it. It waits until you have enough ground beneath you to feel the earthquake. The grief that finds you months later or years later is not a sign that you haven't healed. It is a sign that you have healed enough to finally feel what was always there. You are not going backwards. You are, for the first time, going all the way through. In Vietnamese, there is a word for what this particular ache feels like. Nuối Tiếc. It doesn't translate cleanly. It's not quite regret, not quite longing, not quite grief. Nuối Tiếc is a specific feeling of wanting back something you know you cannot have. Not because you haven't accepted it, but because you loved it. And love doesn't disappear simply because the thing itself is gone. Nuối Tiếc is what remains after you've already done the work of letting go. It's the quiet ache of the after. There is no English word for this because the English language hasn't fully accepted that this kind of aching is not the same as not healing. And here is what Nuối Tiếc is often reaching for. Not just the person, not just the relationship, not just what was, but what could have been. The version of things that existed only in possibility, the future you had quietly constructed, the life you had begun to imagine, the version of yourself inside that life. That future was real. It lived in you. And when the relationship ended, it didn't just take the person, it took that possible world with it. And Nuối Tiếc, the ache that comes later, during healing, is often the grief for that, for the unlived life, for the door that closed. Not because you should have stayed, not because leaving was wrong, but because something that mattered is gone, and it deserves to be mourned properly. I want to say this carefully because it matters. If you are in Nuối Tiếc, if the grief has returned, quieter and more specific, if you are mourning not just what was, but what could have been, you are not failing at healing. You are not weak. You have not undone your work. You have not taken steps backward. You are doing something most people never allow themselves to do. You are grieving completely. Most people grieve the surface, the absence, the silence, the empty space. But Nuối Tiếc asks you to grieve deeper, to mourn the unlived life, the door that closed, the version of yourself that existed in that possible future. That is not weakness, that is love, doing its full work. So how do you hold Nuối Tiếc without being consumed by it? You don't try to argue yourself out of it. You don't remind yourself of all the reasons it was right to let go. You already know those reasons. They are not the point. Instead, you let yourself acknowledge what was true. Something that mattered is no longer here. A possible world no longer exists. A version of yourself that lived in that future will not come to be. And that is a real loss, worth naming, worth sitting with. There's a teaching in Vietnamese Buddhist tradition that says, to understand is the beginning of love. And understanding Nuối Tiếc, fully without hurrying past it, is a form of love too. Love for what was real. Love for what almost was. Love for the part of you that had the courage to hope. Healing is not a straight line. It does not move cleanly from pain to peace, from loss to wholeness. It circles back, it deepens, it asks more of you than you expected it to ask. And sometimes, on the days when you thought you were finally past it, it brings you back to a quiet room inside yourself, where Nuối Tiếc is still sitting, waiting to be seen. Let it be seen. You don't have to hurry out of it. You don't have to perform recovery for anyone, not even for yourself. You are allowed to mourn completely. You are allowed to love what's gone. You are allowed to grieve not just what was, but what could have been. That is not the opposite of healing. That is what healing, when it goes all the way down, actually feels like. What you're mourning is not only what was. Sometimes it's a version of yourself, one that only existed inside a life that never got to happen. And sometimes that self goes missing long before the ending does. Quietly, maybe suddenly, you realized something else was missing too. Not just the person, not just the relationship, but yourself. The version of you that existed before all of this. The things you used to want. The way you used to move through a day. The sense of knowing, even in small ways, who you were. if you've been sitting with that, if the grief has led you somewhere you didn't expect, to the question, who am I now? This reflection is for you. It didn't happen all at once. When you love someone deeply, when you let someone in, when you build a life around another person or around a version of yourself that existed inside that relationship, you weave yourself into them. Slowly, without noticing, you begin to move toward what they like. You shape yourself around their moods. You find your rhythm by reading theirs. Not because you were weak, not because you lost yourself carelessly, but because that is what love asks for. It asks for presence, for showing up, for meeting someone fully. And in doing that, over months, over years, the edges of where you ended and where they began became something harder to see. And now, you find yourself standing in a room that is entirely yours, making choices that belong only to you, and you don't know what you want, what kind of music to put on, how to spend a quiet Saturday, what you actually like to eat when no one else has a preference. You reach for yourself and find a question mark. The disorientation is real. It is not imagined. It is not weakness. It is the natural consequence of having loved so fully that you let yourself become part of someone else. And now you are in the work of finding the edges again, of learning slowly where you end and the world begins. In Vietnamese, there is a phrase for this, lạc Mình, to get lost inside yourself or inside someone else, to wander so far into another world that you lose the thread back to your own. Lạc Mình is not the same as losing yourself out of carelessness. It happens to people who care too much, who give too fully, who are present so completely that they forget to keep one hand on their own doorknob. And when the relationship ends, when the world you were living inside is no longer there, lạc Mình is what you find, not emptiness, something stranger than emptiness, the feeling of being a stranger in your own life. There is a teaching in Vietnamese Buddhist tradition about interbeing, the understanding that nothing exists in isolation, that we are made, always, of everything around us. The flower is made of rain, sunlight, soil. The person is made of every love, every loss, every voice that has ever reached them. When you were in that relationship, you were made partly of them, of the morning routines you shared, of the language that existed only between you, of who you became in the presence of that love. That is not something that went wrong. That is interbeing. That is what it means to have been truly close to someone. The grief of lạc Mình, the grief of not knowing who you are, is the grief of someone who loved with their whole self. There is nothing wrong with you. I want to say something gently because it matters. You will not find your way back to who you were before. That person, the one who existed before this love, before this loss, before everything that changed you, that person is not waiting for you on the other side of grief. They're gone. Not because something went wrong, but because you lived something. Because love changed you, and loss changed you. And the person who came through is not the same as the person who went in. This is not tragedy. This is what it means to be alive, to be genuinely, fully alive in a life that actually touches you. The work ahead of you is not to go back. It is to find out who you are now. So how do you begin? Not with big questions. The big questions, who am I? What do I want? What is my life for? Those come later. You begin with small ones. What did you use to love before this relationship took up so much space? Not what you think you should love, not what sounds like healing, what actually called to you a long time ago, before you started shaping yourself around someone else's world. And then, smaller still, what feels quiet and right in this particular moment. Not the next year, not the rest of your life. This hour, this room, this choice. You find yourself the way you find anything lost, not by reaching everywhere at once, but by being still and paying attention to what rises. Not knowing who you are is one of the hardest places grief can take you, because it asks something that loss alone doesn't ask. It asks you to begin again. Not from nothing, you carry everything you have lived. Every love, every loss, every version of yourself that you have already been. But from here, from this unfamiliar room, from this question mark, and slowly, in the way that all real things grow, you will begin to recognize yourself again. Not the old self, something new, something that could only exist because of everything you have already been through. Let that be enough for today. You don't have to know the answer yet. You only have to stay curious about who is still here, still standing after all of it. Finding yourself again is quiet work, mostly done alone. But not everything can be done alone. Some of it happens between two people. In the small moments, neither of you quite understands about the other. You've had this argument before, maybe not the same words, but the same shape. Something happens, a small thing, barely worth mentioning on its own, and then somehow you're both raising your voices over what started as almost nothing. Afterward, neither of you can quite explain what just happened. There's a teaching that names what's actually missing in moments like this. Not love, but understanding. Because the two aren't the same thing, even though we treat them like they are. You can love someone and still not understand them. And that gap is where most of the hurt quietly lives. It isn't a sign you love each other less. It's a sign of something else entirely, something that can actually be learned. And once you see it clearly, the whole shape of the fight starts to look different. Less like a verdict on the relationship, more like a signal pointing at something that still needs to be understood. We assume that loving someone means we automatically know them, what frightens them, what they're actually asking for underneath what they're saying out loud. But love doesn't come with a translation built in. You can spend years beside someone and still misread the same signal over and over because you're responding to what's on the surface instead of what's underneath it. It's easier to hand someone a flower than to sit with the harder work of looking past their words into what's actually hurting them. One is a gesture, the other asks for a kind of attention most of us were never taught to give. So when conflict arrives, we default to what we already know how to do. Defend, explain, win the point, instead of the slower question of what this is actually about. Nobody teaches this skill directly. We're taught to argue our case, rarely taught to look past someone's case into the fear sitting quietly underneath it. Think about the last real fight you had with someone you love. On the surface, it was about something specific, a comment, a forgotten plan, a tone of voice that landed wrong. But if you were honest, the actual fight was rarely about that thing itself. It was about a feeling underneath it, not being seen, not being prioritized, not being enough. Words that never got said because neither of you had the language yet for what was actually happening. You defended the surface issue instead of naming the deeper one, because the deeper one felt far too exposed to say out loud in that moment. And the person across from you was doing the exact same thing, defending their own surface, guarding their own version of that same unspoken fear. Two people, both hurting underneath, both too afraid to say the real thing, arguing instead about something almost beside the point. This is how the same fight keeps repeating, disguised as a new one every time. You're rarely actually arguing about the dishes or being 15 minutes late or a joke that landed wrong. You're arguing about whether you matter to this person, whether they see the parts of you that feel most fragile. But because neither of you says that plainly, you keep circling the surface issue, resolving it, and finding yourselves back here again a few weeks later. Exhausted, wondering why nothing really changes, even after you both apologize. You apologize for the argument, but you never quite reach the wound sitting underneath it, the one that keeps causing the next one. And so the fight ends, but the actual question, do you see me? Do I matter to you? Stays open, waiting quietly for the next small thing to bring it back. There is an older teaching about what love actually requires. It comes from Thich Nhat Hanh. Hula Nentang Kuatin Tuong. Understanding is the foundation of love. If you cannot understand someone, you cannot truly love them, no matter how much affection you feel toward them. He wrote that giving someone a flower can be easier than looking deeply into them, into their suffering, their longing, to actually understand what they quietly carry. Most conflict isn't a failure of love at all. It's a failure of understanding. Two people who care about each other, reacting to each other's surface, missing everything happening underneath. Understanding asks something harder of you than affection does. It asks you to look past what someone is doing into what they're actually afraid of. It asks you to stay curious about someone even in the middle of being hurt by them, which is exactly the moment curiosity feels hardest to offer. So the next time conflict comes, before defending yourself, try asking a different question. Not how do I win this, but what is this person actually afraid of right now? Not what did they do, but what might they need that they don't yet know how to ask for? This doesn't mean abandoning your own hurt. It means holding both, your pain and their fear, long enough to see what's really happening between you, underneath the argument itself. Try naming it out loud, even imperfectly. I don't think this is really about the dishes. I think I'm scared you don't see me right now. A sentence like that can change the entire shape of an argument. It's harder than simply being right, but it's the only thing that actually closes the gap between two people who love each other. Practice it on something small first. Before you need it in the middle of a real fight, it gets easier the more ordinary it becomes. You will still misunderstand each other sometimes. Everyone does. But you can build the habit of asking what's underneath instead of settling for whatever sits on the surface. Tonight, if conflict comes with someone you love, try pausing before you defend yourself. Ask quietly what they might actually be afraid of right now. That question, more than any apology, is what understanding actually sounds like. It won't resolve everything tonight, but it changes the direction you're both facing toward each other instead of toward the argument. Understanding someone else is one kind of seeing. There is another kind, quieter, harder to reach. Seeing yourself clearly, without the argument, without the ache, without anyone needing to explain you to yourself. Something in you keeps moving, even when nothing is technically wrong. You reach the thing you were chasing, the job, the relationship, the version of your life you used to picture late at night, wanting it so badly it physically hurt. For a while it's enough. Then quietly, without ever deciding to, some part of you starts looking past this moment, toward whatever might finally make you feel complete. In Vietnamese, there's an image for this. Sóng Là Nước. The wave is water. A wave rises, curls, breaks against the shore, believing itself separate from the sea beneath it, spending its whole life reaching for something it never actually left. You are not restless because something is missing. You were only ever taught to look in the wrong direction. And maybe you've sensed this already in quiet moments, a flicker of suspicion that no amount of arriving will ever be enough, because you are never actually far from anywhere. We treat this feeling like proof that we haven't found the right thing yet, the right partner, the right career, the right amount of self-improvement. So we keep searching. We tell ourselves that once we arrive, once we're loved enough, accomplished enough, healed enough, the wanting will finally stop. But the goalposts have a way of moving the moment we get close, like a horizon that recedes exactly as fast as we walk toward it. This isn't a character flaw. It's what happens when you believe your worth lives somewhere outside of you, in the next achievement, the next person's approval, the next version of yourself you haven't become yet. The wave doesn't rest at the shore because it thinks the shore is where it will finally become water. And so the search becomes the whole shape of a life, not because you chose it, but because no one ever told you it was possible to stop. Think about the last time you got something you had wanted for a long time. Maybe it was a relationship you'd hoped for, or a milestone you'd worked years toward. The kind of thing you used to imagine would change everything once it finally arrived. For a moment, it felt like arriving, like the wanting itself might finally go quiet. And then, almost immediately, some part of you started scanning again, comparing, wondering what was next, as if the ground beneath this new happiness were already too familiar to trust. You didn't get to enjoy arriving, because some quiet voice convinced you that arriving was never really the point, that there was always going to be one more thing standing between you and feeling whole. So the search continues, quietly, underneath everything else you do. You tell yourself it's ambition, growth, just being driven, and some of it is, but underneath the striving, there's often a simpler, sadder belief that you are not yet enough as you are. That enoughness is a place you have to travel to, not something you already carry. This is the part no one tells you. The target keeps moving because it was never really about the target. You could reach every single thing on the list and still feel the same quiet ache, because the ache was never about what was missing outside you. It was about what you'd forgotten was already here. And so you keep reaching, exhausted, toward a horizon that was only ever a reflection of something already sitting quietly inside your own chest. There is an older way of seeing this than the one most of us were taught. It comes from a teaching called Sóng Là Nước, the wave is water. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, Ban Chin La Dieu Ban Jitim. You are what you are looking for. A wave suffers when it believes it is small, temporary, separate from the ocean. But the wave was never separate. It was water the entire time, simply moving. You are not a fragment waiting to be completed by something outside yourself. You are not incomplete until someone chooses you, or some goal confirms you. Underneath the searching, you were already whole. The way the wave was already water long before it ever reached the shore. This changes what the search is for, not to become something you're not, but to remember something you already are. So the next time you catch yourself reaching for the next thing to finally feel enough, pause and try asking a different question. Not what do I need to get, but what is already here that I keep overlooking. A steady breath, a body that carried you through today, a quiet moment, undemanding, asking nothing of you. This is the whole practice, noticing what's already whole in you instead of auditioning for wholeness through the next accomplishment. Not forcing yourself to feel complete, just letting yourself notice the water that was always underneath the wave. You don't have to chase the horizon tonight. You only have to notice you were never separate from the sea. Try it now, even briefly, not searching for anything, just resting in the plain fact of being here, breathing, already whole, in a way no achievement ever needed to complete. You may still catch yourself searching for a while longer. That's all right. You are not behind in some race toward wholeness. You are only remembering something that was never actually lost. Tonight, if you feel the old pull to look for the next thing that might finally be enough, you don't have to chase it away. and you don't have to obey it either. Just notice you are already the water. Let that be enough for tonight. If you are already the water, then there is nothing left to search for tonight. Only this, permission to stop, to let the body finally rest. The day finally slows down. You close the door, put the phone down. There is nothing you need to do right now, and yet your mind doesn't stop. It moves from one thing to the next. A conversation you had yesterday, a task you haven't started, a worry that has no name but still takes up space. You try to sit with the quiet, but the quiet doesn't quite come. Something in you is still running. We talk about stress relief like it's a destination, like there is a place you arrive at where the mind finally stops. But that's not how it works. The mind that won't slow down isn't a mind that's failing. It's a mind that has learned to stay ready, to anticipate, to plan, to turn over every possible problem before it has a chance to arrive. This isn't a flaw, it's a skill, one you've been practicing for a very long time. Think about the last time you truly rested, not just stopped moving, not just sat down, but actually rested, where the thoughts came slowly, where the body felt heavy in a good way, where you weren't managing anything, not even yourself. For many people, that moment is hard to find, because somewhere along the way, rest started to feel unsafe. Not dangerous, exactly, but like something that needed to be earned, something that had to wait until everything was handled, until the list was done, until the people were okay, until you had made sure nothing was about to fall apart. The mind that won't rest didn't just decide to run. It was trained by the days when you had to stay alert, by the moments when relaxing too soon meant something got missed, something went wrong, someone needed you, and you weren't paying attention. So the mind learned, stay on, stay ready, don't fully stop, because stopping has a cost. And now, even when there is nothing to manage, even when the room is quiet and everyone is safe and nothing is on fire, the mind still runs. Not because it wants to, but because it doesn't know how to stop, because no one ever told it that it was allowed to. Here is what's easy to miss. The part of you that won't slow down, it isn't broken. It is, in its own way, devoted to you. It has been working to protect you, to keep you prepared, to make sure you never get caught off guard the way you once were. That restless mind, it is the part of you that never stopped caring, that never stopped trying. The reason your mind won't rest isn't that something is wrong with you. It's that your nervous system is still listening for a threat that may no longer be there. Still scanning, still monitoring, still asking the question it has always asked. Is it safe? And no one has answered. Not because the answer is no, but because in all the busyness, all the moving and managing and getting through, that question never got heard. Your body is waiting for permission to exhale. There is a practice Not a technique, not a fix, but a practice in the truest sense of the word. When the mind begins to run, when the thoughts come fast and the quiet feels just out of reach, instead of chasing them away, instead of holding on, just name them. This is worry. This is the part of me that's tired. This is the old habit of staying ready. That's all. You don't need to solve them. You don't need to understand where they came from. Just to see them, to say, I see you. I know you've been working hard. You can slow down now. You won't find rest by forcing the mind to stop. You find it slowly, in the moments you stop fighting the noise and simply let it be there. The mind learns to rest the same way it learned to run, one small moment at a time. Tonight, you don't need to fix anything. You don't need to figure anything out. You are allowed to simply be here in the quiet, even if the quiet is not perfect yet, even if something in you is still listening. If this is something you're sitting with, the kind of exhaustion that isn't just in your body, but in the way you learn to move through the world, there is a companion channel to this one. It's called What Remains, and it tells the story from the inside, in first person, in real detail, of what it's actually like to live inside that running mind. The link is below.